Namaste and welcome back as we continue the discussion of love, this time from the viewpoint of Ayurveda and Ayurveda's holistic perspective on love. Ayurveda gives a universal view of love. It says love is actually the essence of all of life. It's a universal force that transcends boundaries, cultures, and time. In Ayurveda, love is not merely an emotion or a sentiment. It is the vital energy that influences health, relationships, our spiritual growth, and everything in existence. It's rooted in the interconnectedness of the body, mind, and spirit. Ayurveda's view is that love is the cornerstone of all well-being, and Ayurveda offers profound insights into its role in healing and harmony of self and the world. Long before modern research, Ayurveda gave us all this beautiful, wonderful wisdom. At its core, Ayurveda's teaching us, reflects to us, gives us the wisdom that love is a reflection of the balance within us and all around us. It first manifests as self-love, then love for others, and then love for the natural world. This balance maintains our ojas, our cellular vitality, the vital essence of life. It nourishes the body, it strengthens the immune system, and it gives an emotional resilience that leads to a spiritual awakening while having a foundation of physical vitality. Conversely, Ayurveda says that when there's a lack of love or unresolved emotional disturbances, it leads to imbalances in all three doshas that are the resulting in disharmony and disease. Ayurveda gives very clear multidimensional definitions of love, predominantly four main types of love: prema, sneha, atma prema, and bhakti. Prema is the word term for universal love. It's an all-encompassing energy that binds creation together. It's the web of life, really. Sneha is that personal, affectionate love. It's expressed through relationships, through connectivity, through anything that we deem to be affectionate, through giving of flowers, things like that. Atma prema is the self-love. Again, as we discussed previously, it's not selfish love, it's self-love. It's the foundation of all love. It's emphasizing the care of one's own well-being. And Ayurveda gives us infinite amount of tools on how to do that. And then bhakti. Many people have heard of bhakti yoga. It's the devotional love, a spiritual connection between the individual soul and the divine, the individual consciousness and the universal consciousness. And each form of love contributes to the whole picture, to holistic health, to fostering our balance and alignment. Ayurveda teaches us that this love is not just a passive state, it's an active practice. Love is an active practice of nurturing oneself, and love is an active practice of nurturing others through kindness, through mindfulness, through compassionate acts. Even in the Ayurvedic medical texts, there's a historical and philosophical context to love. The two main medical texts, Charaka Samhita and Sushruta Samhita, emphasize the role of our emotions. That includes love in the maintenance of health. And health is swasthya, to be established in oneself, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. These ancient texts recognized that emotional well-being was as crucial for our health, vitality, longevity, immunity as a good diet, as good physical activity. And these texts outline the practices to cultivate this love. And the practices can range anything from mindfulness and meditation and spiritual activities to taking herbal remedies or eating certain foods or massaging yourself with certain oils. And on the spiritual level, we have the text, the Bhagavad Gita, which is the song of God. And it explores the love as a path to knowing the self, love as a path to self-realization. And it highlights the whole thing is a discourse between Sri Bhagavan Krishna, God, and Arjuna, who's a warrior, and it happens on the battlefield. And Arjuna doesn't want to fight, and Krishna's love and empathy encourages him to do his Dharma, and in that time, his Dharma was to be a warrior and protect his community. And through love of God, love of self, love of community, he rises up out of his despair into victory. So there's so many texts throughout history that explains this. The profound role of love in Ayurveda has its influence in every aspect of life, really. Just like we were talking in modern scientific research, it influences physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. And it has the transformative power for us to transform ourselves, to transform our relationships and society. Understanding love through the lens of Ayurveda gives us a really holistic approach to our well-being and the well-being of this world. We can create, Ayurveda gives us tools to create balance, connection, and our own spiritual growth. Again, Ayurveda sees love as the fundamental energy that binds all aspects of existence. Love in this context is both personal and interpersonal. It's a universal force that connects us, an individual, to ourselves, to others, to the natural world. That concept we were mentioning earlier, prema, universal love. This idea of universal love, that there's a divine energy that flows through all of creation. It's a life-affirming idea that gives us a sense of nurturing and healing. It somehow like radiates. It's similar to how a sun radiates warmth to sustain life. Prema radiates. It's the radiation, the illumination of love within ourselves in its highest form. It really transcends our individual ego-driven desire. It's that compassion, that altruism, where we're experiencing the oneness and the totality. And when love is shared with others, it functions like a mirror of the love we hold for ourselves. We're just mirroring love. We're walking each other home. And Ayurveda does say that when we're not in love, it's because we have unresolved inner conflicts, or there's an imbalance in the doshas, and they manifest as difficulty in forming, maintaining loving, lasting connections. For example, if there's a vata imbalance, we can have fear or insecurity, and that causes erratic behaviors or avoidant behaviors in relationship. So it's very difficult to connect and feel that love when we have fear and insecurity. We must first feel safe. That's the number one thing for Vata, to feel safe and secure. For a Pitta, there can be a lack of love manifests as anger or control issues, and there's conflict. And Pittas often think that when they're out of balance, they think that they're right, someone else is wrong. If you think someone else is wrong, how can you love them? If you think you're right all the time, you think you're superior, how can you love yourself? When there's that duality in the heart and the mind, that's not a place where love grows or blossoms. It's not good soil for the lotus to blossom. And when there's a kapha imbalance, the kapha gets super attached. It's codependent, it's over-attachment, it creates a possessiveness in it, and it stifles the growth of both partners. It's also not setting us free. It's limiting. It's I must possess and hold on to it. And these all come from unresolved issues, unresolved inner conflicts, mostly probably came from childhood traumas. When we achieve an inner harmony and we can cultivate relationships that are rooted in safety and trust and empathy, then the love can really blossom. And in Ayurveda, there's a concept called Dharma, which is our purpose. Each person has a unique Dharma, a swadharma, our unique purpose, our unique reason for existing. And that gives duty. We have a duty and a dharma. And then the other principle in yoga is ahimsa, nonviolence. And these two serve as a pillar for cultivating that type of love. Looking at dharma at its fundamental level, it's a fulfilling of one's responsibility in society, but it's doing it with love, a sincerity and a mindfulness that foster love. And when we have that inside of us, we want to engage in service and care of others, whether it's volunteering at a homeless shelter, feeding people on the street, nurturing a child, supporting a partner, contributing to society in whatever way. We live in alignment with our own dharma. And when we do that, it cultivates love within us. It cultivates meaningful connections. And the concept of ahimsa, nonviolence, that's an ancient concept. Mahatma Gandhi promoted this. It's not just nonviolence physically. It's nonviolence in our thoughts, in our words, and our actions. And when we dwell in that, we establish an environment of safety and respect. And from there, love can flourish. The connection between love and health in Ayurveda is ultimately and directly what links our health and vitality to our longevity and immunity. There's a concept called ojas, which is the vital essence, and prana, the life force. Modern science is naming this psychoneuroendocrine immunology. But these fundamental principles are central to maintaining physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. So Ayurveda says that cultivating love improves all of this. It's a nourishing force for this ojas. That ojas, again, it's a subtle essence that sustains the body and the mind. It provides the immunity, vitality, and emotional stability. PNEI axis, psychoneuroendocrine immunological system. It's all connected. It's one unified field. And when love is expressed through positive relationships and our self-care, this is believed to enhance the ojas. Affectionate sharing, practicing gratitude, engaging in selfless service. All of this creates a sense of vitality and contentment within us that really can't be known in any other way. There's a contentment in serving humanity. There's a contentment in protecting Mother Nature. There's a contentment when we truly love ourselves for no reason. And it's said in Ayurveda that when there's a lack of this love, it leads to chronic emotional stress, and that depletes our ojas. That leads to fatigue. That eventually leads to depression, and we become susceptible to illness. So Ayurveda says the same thing, or modern science, better yet, modern science is saying the same thing Ayurveda told us thousands of years ago. Likewise, prana, which is the life force that governs all energy flow throughout the body, is directly connected to our emotional well-being. And our neurohormones and our digestive hormones, 90+% of our neurohormones and our happiness hormones, serotonin and dopamine, are produced in our gut. When there's love, when the vagus nerve, modern science has named it the vagus nerve, but it's the channels that carry prana between the gut and the brain. When they're regulated, we have a sense of openness and balance. When they're restricted, we experience fear, anger, and grief, which obstruct the flow of prana. And then we have physical and emotional blockages. So these ancient texts, Ayurvedic texts, Charak Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, they provide these insights into the role of emotions in our health. They emphasize the importance of love and compassion. In Charaka Samhita, love is actually described as a healing force. Like we were talking previously, love is the best medicine. It's a healing force. And the text emphasizes the need for cultivating positive relationships for the sake of emotional balance to maintain health. In the text, it first advises the practitioner to approach the patients with empathy and compassion because it recognizes that therapeutic power of love and healing. Truly, one of my teachers once told me, if you can't enter the heart of your patient, there's no healing that's going to take place. There has to be love, mutual respect, mutual understanding. Also, this Charaka Samhita, it advocates for a balanced life where love for self and others is nurtured through proper diet, mindfulness, and spiritual practices. The other Ayurvedic text, Sushruta Samhita, expands more on the emotional health. It tells us about the connection between the emotions and the physical well-being. And it tells us that unresolved emotional disturbances like unrequited love, jealousy, or heartbreak, these lead to the dosha imbalances. And it prescribes therapies herbal remedies. There's herbs that actually stimulate our serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, relaxation. It prescribes practices of meditation, and it prescribes sneha, affectionate touch, whether it's with oil or marma, the pressure of acupressure points, or just gentle hands-on healing. All of these things are done to restore our emotional harmony. Likewise, the Bhagavad Gita, it's not a medical text, it's a spiritual text. It gives us profound insights into the nature of love. That bhakti, that devotion, says the highest form of love. And again, it's encouraging us to transcend our limited ego desires to embrace a more universal compassion. And the spiritual perspective completely complements Ayurveda's holistic approach. Personal love and cosmic harmony. Very, very simple. So complicated, but very simple. Embracing Ayurveda's perspective on love resonates in my heart so deeply in today's world when we're bombarded with images where there's not love. We're bombarded with emotional stress. During the pandemic, we saw complete isolation and disconnection. We need tribe. We need community. Ayurveda's teaching reminds us that love is not just an abstract idea. It is the most tangible force, and it can be cultivated through intentional practices. Whether it's nourishing the body with wholesome food or nourishing the soul through meaningful relationships, Love is the foundation. Love is the medicine. And even giving clean food, that's loving the body, giving it clean food, free from herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, all these endocrine disrupting carcinogens, food that's not been genetically modified. Growing your own food, having a personal relationship with your own food is one of the most loving things you can do. And then Ayurveda has an understanding of love that extends way beyond these philosophical things. It is actually a practical science. And we can bridge that ancient wisdom with modern biology. Again, the recognition that love is a vital force that influences all aspects. And so many of the scientific underpinnings have really given us insight into the actual biology and functioning of how this works. The concept of ojas, that vital essence of life, it's the biological framework. Modern science parallels this idea, providing physiological explanation of the effects of love through the hormones and neurotransmitters and the different bodily systems, how they sustain immunity and vitality and the emotional resistance. Likewise, that ojas describes that subtle essence of life. That is a byproduct of digestion. If we're not digesting our food or our life experience, how can we live a love-filled, harmonious life? We have to digest everything, physical, tangible experiences. So what kind of things can we do? How to enhance ojas? How to enhance our prana? How to enhance love? The best way, the most simple way, and sometimes the hardest way, but really it's not, is compassion in action. Fill your heart with love and express it in everything you do. Any act of kindness improves ojas, prana, love. Any acts of affection, make sure you have permission to give an act of affection. But gratitude nourishes ojas and prana. All of these things create emotional stability and sense of fulfillment. If you're not physically able to go out and do some selfless service on a regular basis, take a small portion of your income and donate it. If you're in a relationship, physical intimacy, healthy, loving sexual relationships are understood to strengthen ojas, enhance our physical vitality and our mental clarity. Stress reduction. Love reduces stress. It mitigates stress, which depletes the ojas. Positive relationships promote relaxation and emotional security like nothing else. And then looking at the hormonal aspects of it. This is modern scientific discovery, but Ayurveda knew all this. Oxytocin, the love hormone, is released during bonding activities, hugging, or even an intimate conversation that's uplifting. Produces oxytocin. It definitely reduces stress. It lowers blood pressure. And then we have that feeling of trust and connection. We feel life is good. The serotonin and dopamine, these are the happiness hormones. These are the feeling of joy and reward from experience. Ayurveda emphasizes the role of love as enhancing our mental well-being. And most of our serotonin and dopamine is in the gut, so we need to have that gut-brain connection. And then the cortisol, which is the most harmful stress hormone, and it's there from chronic stress over and over and over again. Love reduces cortisol very quickly. We also do need to look at the psychological components of love. Ayurveda emphasizes the role of manas, mind, and the qualities of the mind. We have sattva, rajas, and tamas, the pure state of something, the active state, and the inertia state. And these different qualities of the mind shape our emotions, including love. These qualities influence how we perceive and express love. When we're looking at love from the sattvic point of view, that's the pure state of love. That's love with no reason. That's balance. That's unconditional love and compassion. And when we have that sattvic state, we do want to express ourselves in a selfless way, filled with empathy and deep connection. We see the other as ourself, and our relationships become based on trust and mutual respect. If we're looking at love with the eyes or the perception of rajas or tamas, rajas is passion and activity. Nothing inherently wrong about that. But when it's not balanced, it leads to things like possessiveness or jealousy or conditioned love that's only driven by one's individual desires. If we look at it from that tamasic state, which is an inertia state, or really in its full heightened state is ignorance, it leads to an indifference or an apathy and other toxic behaviors. Ayurveda's main practice is to cultivate the sattvic quality through meditation practices, through sneha, through self-love practices, through touch and compassion and empathy, and basically living with intention. When Ayurveda talks about love, it also not just physical, not just intellectual, but the emotional state and the imbalances in the emotional state. We do look at it from that doshic perspective, remembering that vata may be fear, anxiety, pitta is anger, kapha is that attachment. And we can do things in our life to change those. Again, the yoga practices, the pranayama practices, the herbal treatments, specific diets. We can do all these things to promote that atma prema, that self-love. And if we don't have self-love, it's not possible to love others. We must prioritize our self-care and our emotional well-being in order to have inner balance necessary for healthy relationships with others. If we remember in the beginning podcast, we talked about dinacharya, the daily regime that Ayurveda recommends. It starts with nurturing self-love practices, whether it's in the morning routine, whether it's in our job, whether it's taking rest. We have to do practices that support our emotional and physical well-being, that support and enhance our emotional resilience, overcoming our negative thought patterns, the self-talk, the internal self-talk that's telling us we're not good enough or anything like that. One of Ayurveda's practices to do that is positive affirmations. Now, these in traditional Ayurveda, they were done in Sanskrit. Om Shanti, let there be peace. Om Tat Sat, I am that. There's different mantras for different aspects of the mind. In modern times, I am love, I am whole, I am safe, I am love and whole, I am enough. Doing positive affirmations to remind us that we are what we need. We have what we need inside us. And then the other real important practice is gratitude. And when we look at what we actually have and we're grateful for what we have, this is cultivating self-awareness, and that self-awareness eventually leads to love. Ayurveda says, just like modern science says, love is the most potent healing force in the world. Whether through self-love or interpersonal connections or universal compassion, love facilitates the emotional release of pain. Love facilitates the physical release of pain, and it leads to a spiritual evolution. Ayurveda tells us that these suppressed emotions do lead to the physical ailments. So releasing them is really important for a life of health and longevity, and to live a life in balance for the most part. That view of balance in Ayurveda, it's not just within ourselves, it's also within relationship. And Ayurveda gives us a very fundamental view of how to live in relationship, not just with ourselves, not just with others, but the intimate relationship, to have a partnership for life that is about awakening, that is about growth on every level. And it's about transformation. And we can transform our relationships into vehicles for more love. And oftentimes, in the United States, the divorce rate's like 50%. Where is the love in that? Where is the commitment in that? One of the things that Ayurveda really promotes is the depth of compassion and compatibility. And Ayurveda does like to use the doshas as a guidepost, or at least playing a significant role in shaping how we're in relationship, because each of the doshas has a personality trait, has preferences, has communication styles. And if we can understand our unique constitution, then it can help individuals, even if you're different doshas, to navigate the relationship with emphasis on communication and empathy, and trying to understand and support the other person. Looking at the characteristics of the dosha type is super important. So for example, a vata type, they're super creative, they're spontaneous and expressive, and they thrive in relationships that are filled with variety, and they need intellectual stimulation. But a vata can struggle with consistency, and even really high vata is anxiety or fear. So they need consistency, they need to feel safe, secure, like this. Pitta types are super passionate, they're ambitious, and they're totally driven, and they value honesty, and they value efficiency. But when they're out of balance, they become impatient and overly critical. A kapha type is loyal, is nurturing, is grounded, is motherly, is loving. They offer a stability and emotional depth. However, when they're out of balance, they exhibit a possessiveness and a resistance to change. So if we can understand the dosha types, we can understand ourselves, we can understand our needs, we can also understand our partner and their needs, and we can adapt. Adaptation is the key to survival. Ayurveda emphasizes that there's no pairing that is inherently compatible or incompatible. It just wants us to understand that there's certain tendencies that can be cultivated to foster more harmony in it. Ayurveda really does also value the enhancement of intimacy. Physical touch and connection are an essential part of Ayurveda for strengthening bonds, whether it's holding your baby next to your chest or holding your beloved, your lover, your husband, your wife next to the chest. Physical and emotional closeness are considered absolutely essential for health and vitality and longevity. Skin-to-skin touch produces so much oxytocin. If you are in an intimate relationship, doing rituals together, doing shared intentional practices, sacred rituals, whether it's meditating or doing yoga together or doing gratitude practices together, this can strengthen the bond and it can lead to a lasting relationship. No one in any relationship ever is going to agree 100%, but we can try to understand each other through understanding ourselves. Ultimately, for a healthy relationship, we have to have communication and compassion. We have to have mindful communication as the foundation of love. One thing that can be done is observing silence before we react. If we're being triggered, if we can be silent versus just reacting and cultivate a thoughtful response versus a reaction. Reaction is reacting. We're doing something based on a past action that perpetuates karma. It doesn't lead to a conflict-free resolution. Practicing ahimsa, nonviolence, in our speech to prevent doing further emotional harm is essential. The best thing Ayurveda teaches is to engage in active listening in order to build trust and to understand. So many times we're ready to we have a response prepared, ready to go with the other person's statement. Before we've even finished hearing what they're saying, we need to take time and listen. We need to make it important to listen versus just having an immediate response, an immediate reaction. Ayurveda encourages viewing conflict in relationship as a mirror of our own inner struggle. I mean, for example, if we have jealousy, it could reflect something like our own unresolved fear of inadequacy. If we're angry, maybe we have difficulty accepting or forgiving. We have to look at these things. And Ayurveda gives us tools like breath work, breathing into the body, having a somatic experience of where we feel what we're feeling in the body, and having a self-reflective practice that allows us to transform our emotions and our challenges into a pathway of growth, into a meditation, into a self-evaluation, a self-examination. And Ayurveda wants us to ultimately expand our love capacity beyond our limited self. Ayurveda teaches the ultimate goal of love is to transcend the ego and align ourselves with the universe, with the universal consciousness that is us. This cultivation of Maitri, universal friendliness. And that's not just towards ourself and to God, that's to all beings. Karuna, compassion, as a way of life. We need to embrace compassion as our way of life, and gratitude for everything we have and the interconnectedness of all life. This is what Ayurveda tells us. These are the ways to expand beyond the limited self into a universal love. Now, on the very personal level, in a relationship, Ayurveda regards sexuality as a sacred expression of love that nurtures both physical vitality and our spiritual connection. There's some spiritual traditions, even in India, in yoga, saying that sexuality should be repressed, suppressed, depressed, ignored, transcended. It's in and through the body that we experience God. In Ayurveda, there's 8 limbs of Ayurveda. Sexuality is one of them. The rishis, these enlightened masters, gave it so much importance. Healthy sexual relationships grounded in love and mutual respect enhance our ojas, our vital energy. But Ayurveda advises, especially for men, to avoid frequent ejaculation because that actually does deplete the vital energy. I mean, in a teaspoon of semen isn't so much power to create life. That's life force energy. And we can take that energy, we can retain that energy, we can keep it in our body and channel that sexual energy into creative vitality. Actually, Muhammad Ali lost a couple of fights in his whole career. One of them, he almost died. And both of those fights he lost after a night of being with women and ejaculating. And after the second fight he lost and almost died, he swore he would never ejaculate before I think it was like 3 weeks before a fight to preserve that energy, and he didn't lose anymore. I'm not saying don't ejaculate, but do it with mindfulness. There's a purpose to everything. And when we do it frequently, for men, we lose energy. Women don't lose that same energy. They gain energy. Ayurveda also includes Tantra as sacred intimacy. We'll have whole discussions on Tantra later, but just tantric practices that bring our awareness into balance within our own body, within our own sense organs. Seeing Ayurveda as a sexual, spiritual act that blends physical intimacy with emotional and spiritual connectivity. Real Tantra emphasizes mindfulness and presence during intimacy. Actually, Tantra emphasizes mindfulness and presence in every single action you do, whether it's smelling a rose or tasting a piece of fruit or touching someone or looking at nature. That's all Tantra. It's seeing the beauty in creation and seeing the goddess in creation and worshiping everything, having devotion to everything as that supreme consciousness of love. And then we can see our partner as a reflection of the divine mother, divine father, Shiva, Shakti, the yin, the yang, and together channeling that energy into a higher state of awareness and moving that energy through the body with a sankalpa, with an intention for more love, for more peace, for creating a more harmonious world for everyone to live in. Again, love is the best medicine. And if it's not working, increase the dose exponentially. There's no level where love becomes toxic when it's unconditional love. And Ayurveda, that's not the subject today, but Ayurveda gives herbs, so many different herbs for cultivating different qualities of the mind, cultivating our sexual energy. We'll have entire podcasts on that later. Another aspect we do need to really look at when we're talking about love from an Ayurvedic model is the modern application of Ayurveda principles in the relationship with the world. Ayurveda does give us this timeless wisdom, even for the modern contemporary challenges we experience. We're living in a digital age that is filled with coping mechanisms and stress, computers and time constraints and all this. And we go to work. We're living in survival versus thrival. And we go to work and it's stressful and then we bring that home. But in our modern relationships, we suffer because of the stress just for survival. It's information overload. It's connectivity overload. Ayurveda and yoga both offer this practice of pratyahara. It means sensory withdrawal or withdrawing from the senses, withdrawing from the external world for a little while to foster a deeper connection with ourself, with our heart, coherence. There was a saying in the 60s, tune in, turn on, drop out. It had different implications then than it does now. Tune into our heart, turn on our love, turn on the light of consciousness, and drop out of the rat race, because we're humans, we're not rats. And give time for yourself, your self-connection, your self-love. If we do that, we can emphasize love in the community, in the family. We can foster healthy communities based on love. We can engage in work based on love. We can then take that into nature. Ayurveda, that's the next real potent component of Ayurveda. We have to have a love for nature as self, as God, as our mother who gives us a home to live on. Ayurveda's holistic view of creation inherently recognizes the interconnectedness between humans and the natural world. I mean, Ayurveda doesn't even see it as being two separate things. We named ourselves Homo sapiens sapien and disconnected ourselves from nature, but there's no separation. We're a fundamental part of nature. So our love for nature is not only a moral imperative, it is practical necessity for sustaining health and life. If we want to stay on this planet, we must cultivate a love for nature. We're interdependent. I mean, we're totally dependent. We leave, Mother Nature is going to do fine. If we just look within ourselves, look at the 3 doshas, the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the space. That forms the basis of human life and the environment and the material world. Loving and respecting nature aligns us with our own dosha, with our own element. That's another way of fostering balance and sustainability in ourself and in creation. Another way to do or to cultivate more love in ourselves is to do selfless service in nature. Go plant trees, go volunteer in sustainable farming practices in third world countries, whatever. Do ecological practices with a selfless attitude. And also another thing is that we are addicted to things for our peace, for our safety. We don't feel safe or comfortable or enough within ourselves, so we keep consuming stuff outside of ourselves. It's really valuable if we develop mindfulness around our consumption, really consuming only what's truly necessary. That's going to help our bodies, that's going to help our longevity, probably going to help your bank account, and it's going to help reduce the environmental strain because we keep taking so many resources to make these things. So we are facing a massive global challenge. We're facing a personal challenge, family challenges, community, country, global challenges. The world is in an interconnected crisis, whether it's social unrest or inequality or climate change. The solution is love. That's it. That's the only solution. We have the science to clean the oceans, to clean the air, to create regenerative soil all over the planet. We have all the science we need to create an ecotopia. All we need is more love. Ayurveda tells us that love is the fundamental deciding factor in climate change, environmental health, in our personal health, in social justice, in social equity, in healthcare access. Whatever it is, global resilience comes through collective love. We must follow and live by loving compassion through honoring all the diverse traditions with mutual respect. It doesn't matter where you come from. And I think that really the best thing is begin at home. Begin with yourself. Begin empowering yourself with love. Envision a world where love permeates every aspect of life. Love creates harmony at the individual level, the family level, community level, global level. Cultivate compassion. The practices, we've talked about them. Yoga, diet, herbs, meditation. We know what to do. We just have to do it. So are you ready to love? Are you ready to love yourself completely? Are you ready to love yourself more than you've ever loved yourself? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, every dimension of life. Then we deepen our relationship with ourself, with the universe. Love, as Ayurveda understands it, is more than just this emotion. It is the foundation. It's the foundational energy of the universe that sustains life. It's the universal force that permeates every aspect of our existence, from personal health to relationship to the whole world. Love is the remedy for all of our modern challenges. This vision reflects the ultimate purpose of life. The ultimate purpose of life is love. By cultivating love in all its forms, we can, together, and only together, progress towards a state of collective well-being, lasting harmony, and an inner spiritual awakening. Love is not a destination. It's a continuous practice. It's a sacred journey that begins within, it extends outward, and it illuminates our path to wholeness, to wellness, to love itself. Love increases love. I thank you from the depth of my heart with all of my love for joining me on this journey. Until next time, walk in balance, walk in peace, fill your heart with love, and express it in everything you do. Namaste.